Assalamu alaikum. You're watching the Open Talk, and this is Umar Shariff. Today I'll be talking about the siege at Aleppo. It's really disturbing to know that about 1 lakh Syrians have been covered from all sides, and the bombs have been bombarding over the people, and little ones, the little children have been carried and thrown into the fire, and women are being just taken away, and in some cases they've been raped and tortured, and the men have been brought on the open streets and they've been shot and executed. These are the things that really disturb anybody, for that matter, not necessarily Muslim, but anybody who loves peace would really be disturbed. And in this situation, I would plead to all of the peace-loving people in the world today to voice out and come in the open and criticize what's happening. We have to make a difference to the world that we live in. So I would encourage every one of you, the people who care for humanity, to come forward and do something to the extent that you're able to stop what's happening there. We all have to stand up to stop the massacre. Secondly, I would plead to the world leaders, the people who rule the lands of the Muslim countries. We're talking about Turkey, we're talking about Pakistan, we're talking about Saudi Arabia, we're talking about Egypt, and we're talking about more than 50 countries which are Muslim countries across the world. I want to know, what are you doing? And OIC, Organization for Islamic Cooperation, what are you doing? Why aren't you making a difference? Why is that you're not able to stop? Please do something at least now. I'm sure if you all voice out, there will be a great fire, there will be a great goodness coming to the Muslim world. And I'm also talking to Assad, who runs the Shia regime. Look, the differences between Shia and Sunni has been there, but it should not end up in bloodshed. We always can have differences of opinions, we can discuss it out, but this is not how we treat the people with whom we differ. If we are having some commonalities, we believe in the prophetic traditions, we believe in the Quran, we believe in the way of the Prophet. The Prophet ﷺ was merciful to the people. If you happen to see the way he treated the captive of war, Sumama was one amongst those who had killed the Muslims, and when the Muslims had brought Sumama as a captive, the Prophet ﷺ asked the believers to tie him up in the masjid. And when he was tied in the masjid, he saw the way of the Prophet, and he became very closer to Islam, and he said that if he sets him free, if the Prophet ﷺ sets Sumama free, that he would be grateful. So the Prophet ﷺ set him free, and after he was set free, he goes and comes back to the Prophet ﷺ and says that he wants to become Muslim, and he embraces Islam. And this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. One time when the Prophet ﷺ was traveling, he had to take the midday nap, so he and his Sahaba, they took under the shade of the trees, and the Prophet ﷺ hung his sword on one of the branches of the tree. And when the Prophet ﷺ was resting, a man, he comes and holds at the sword and points the sword at the Prophet ﷺ while he was lying on the ground, and says, "Who will help you now? Who will save you now?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah will save. The Prophet ﷺ said, Allah, Allah. The moment he heard to the conviction, by the grace of Allah, the man started shivering and the sword fell down, and then the Prophet ﷺ took the sword on his hand and then said, "Who will help you now?" And the man said, "Please show mercy." And the Prophet ﷺ, he asked him, "Do you want to become Muslim?" He said, "No." And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Okay, you may go, you're free to go." And the man went, and then he went to his people and said, I went and met a very generous man," and he was talking about the Prophet ﷺ. So look, this is what the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ was. One time when the Prophet ﷺ was engaging in the battlefield, and he came across the dead body of a woman from the enemy's tribe, and the Prophet ﷺ inquired his companions, "Who killed this woman?" And he said, "You don't have right to kill the women in the battlefield." So we have all the prophetic traditions. Why can't we show that? Why can't we show the mercy to the people? And the captives of the war during the Battle of Badr, they were brought, and the Prophet ﷺ asked the companions to loosen the chains, and he asked the companions to give them good food. So much so that the companions, they ate only dates and they gave good bread and something to eat with. So this is the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Why can't we just apply what we have learnt? So I encourage the people of the world to talk about peace and talk about Aleppo and to do something in a way that you can stop what's happening there. That's all for now. This is Umar Shariff. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.